Alright, today we're going to talk about one of my favorite games of all time, Skies of Arcadia. I have both versions. I just decided to play the Dreamcast version because the last time I played it was in 2002, a few months before my son was born. Since then, I've always played the GameCube version whenever I feel like playing the game. I also never found all the discoveries or got all the final weapons. I did this time. If you've ever watched one of my videos before, it's in two parts. First part is the review, which is around 17 minutes. The rest is the story recap. There'll be a spoiler warning before the recap. So, please consider liking and subscribing. Let's go!
Skies of Arcadia was first released in Japan as Eternal Arcadia on October 5th, 2000. Next released in North America on November 14, 2000, and in PAL territories on April 27, 2001. Skies of Arcadia really had a powerhouse of RPG developers creating it. Producer Reiko Kodama worked on Phantasy Star 1 and 2 and directed Phantasy Star 4. Phantasy Star 4 is the game that got me into JRPGs, and I consider it one of the best games on the Genesis. It was also $100 when it came out. That was a lot of money in 1994. Luckily I had the Sega channel and I was able to play it on that.
Sega channel, over 70 hot games a month for your Genesis machine. No lines, no limits, no late fees.
Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Overworks developed this game. This studio included former Team Andromeda staff. If you don't know who they are, they were the studio that developed the Panzer Dragoon series on the Saturn, with Team Andromeda's final game being the masterpiece that is the Panzer Dragoon Saga. I did a video on that game a while back. Check it out, after this one. Skies of Arcadia was originally codenamed Project Ares. An interesting thing about Project Ares is it started off as a Saturn game.
If you won't fly the plane, then I'll find someone who will.
Sega Saturn, now only $249.
Production didn't get very far on the Sega Saturn. In an interview that Reiko Kodama did with IGN Japan, she said there was nothing playable from this version. It was very early in production. Director and writer Shintaro Tanaka hadn't even joined the project yet. This was all around 1998. The team started hearing about the Dreamcast and production was moved to the new console. According to the director, Shintaro Tanaka, there's a couple of interesting ideas that didn't make it into the game. One was an interpretation system. Since you meet new people that have had little to no contact with the rest of the world, it makes sense they wouldn't speak the same language. It's understandable why it was dropped. I'm not even sure how this would work, as long as it's nothing like No Man's Sky one word at a time. Before Eternal Arcadia, Shintaro Tanaka directed the Sakura Taisen games on the Saturn. Tanaka stated in that IGN Japan interview that once Sakura Taisen 2 was complete, he told his boss he didn't want to keep making Sakura Taisen games. Understandable. He asked his boss if he could work on an RPG. His boss told him about Project Ares and that the team was having some trouble, so he joined Overworks. We can also see that in the earlier stages of development, Vice, Ike, and Fina all had more realistic designs. They kind of use these in-game. Whenever Ike hears stories about other people in the world, her imagination runs wild and we get these images that, while funny, are closer to that design. Props to Yuri Alfundo on the info on these early designs. It wasn't until I did research for this video that I learned that Reiko Kodama was so influential on my early years with RPGs. In 2018, she was presented with a Pioneer Award from the Game Developer's Choice Awards. Reiko Kodama sadly passed away in 2022. She was a producer for Sega all the way until the end of her life. The IGN Japan interview is a great watch if you're interested in the development of this game. Skies of Arcadia is set in a world of floating islands. It also takes heavy inspiration from the Age of Discovery. You play as Vice, a sky pirate and part of the Blue Rogues. In the game, there are two types of pirates. The black pirates that loot and pillage, as well as attack anything that moves. Then there are the Blue Rogues. They're more like Robin Hood.
Hey, thanks, man. You're welcome. And why, anyway?
The game opens with a girl in white running from an Imperial battleship. The girl in white is captured while her ship falls beneath the clouds. Suddenly, Captain Dine's ship, the Albatross, appears and attacks. Vice and Ika jump across and board the Armada ship. Admiral Alfonso is the commander of the Valiant vessel. His mission is to capture Fina, the girl from the Silver Airship. Ika and Vice defeat all of Alfonso's lackeys and rescue the mysterious girl. Alfonso meanwhile ran away before the battle was over. They let everyone go free and steal everything of value. I mean, they are pirates, of course. Vice and Ika go to meet Fina. The three hit it off quickly and they take her to their home base on Pirate Island. We also learn that Captain Dine is Vice's father. Dine asks Fina why the Empire was after her. Fina expresses her gratitude for being rescued, but says she cannot reveal her mission. Dine decides to trust Fina anyway. Later, while the three are enjoying the view, they see a moonstone hit the nearby Shrine Island. Moonstones are what power the airships, and are valuable. Vice and Ika decide to head to Shrine Island to get the moonstone. While Vice and Ika are away, the Valiant Armada attack. They take Fina and capture Dine and his crew. Vice and Ika decide to rescue everyone. This is what sets the whole adventure off. Honestly, this part is awesome. Breaking into Valia to save Vice's father from being executed. This game sets the stage grand, and does it continuously throughout the adventure. The main story involves the trio completing Fina's mission of collecting the 5 moon crystals. Each moon crystal is extremely powerful, and the Valiant Empire is also after them. I'll be the first to admit that the overall plot isn't the most original. However, the story is told extremely well. The choice to have the main characters know so little about the world they live in was a great one. We all get to experience the world and new discoveries with the main characters. Kinda like Star Trek Enterprise. Honestly, that was what I loved so much about that show. Anyway.
No Star Trek.
Another great thing about the story is the friendship between Ica, Fina, and Vice. The trio are just such great characters. There are 3 other characters that join throughout the adventure. Captain Drachma, who's a heavily Captain Ahab inspired character. Well, Drachma has some differences though. He really cares about Vice, Ica, and Fina, even though he only refers to them as damn kids. He's also the party's captain for the first 40% of the game, and he's the strongest physical attacker in the game as well. Gilder's probably my favorite of the 3. He's a really laid-back, chill captain. He's a pleasure before business kind of guy. He seeks adventure and women. A lot of his lines are pretty funny. He is the party member you have for the shortest amount of time. He's always on the run from Captain Clara. She's in love with Gilder. His crew has special tactics for whenever she catches up with them. He's also the only party member you have that uses a gun. Finally, there's Prince Enrique. Enrique is the prince of the Valiant Empire. He doesn't agree with his mother's goals to take over the world. He wants to do what's best for the Valiant people. He joins Vice to help stop his mother and Lord Galcian. He's also probably the most useful in battle. Vice at the beginning is close to Drachma's first mate. Eventually he becomes a captain himself. In Skies of Arcadia, you can travel on foot as well as in an airship. In towns and dungeons, you'll run around as Vice. Controlling Vice is mostly fine. The camera gets a little weird in tight spaces. It doesn't happen too often. Most building interiors have a fixed camera. When in towns, there's no loading when entering buildings. I just think it's a nice little touch that keeps the game flowing. Towns are a great place to get information. Some hints for discoveries are only found by talking to NPCs. Also a few hidden places that are story related as well. Towns have plenty of hidden items in them also. You'll almost always find the usual inn, item, weapons, and armor shops. Ship part shops are the unique ones though. I'll talk more about ship customization later, but this is where you get a majority of the parts. Most towns are fairly large. It can take some time to get to some places. Dungeons tend to have some sort of gimmick. I'll use Shrine Island as a light spoiler early example. This one involves opening gates to empty the flooded main chamber. Oh, the game does have a slow moving water dungeon, but luckily it's not that long. This game really does reward exploration. You'll find some really good stuff in dungeons. Also, you'll have to do battle with a rival treasure hunter from time to time. One thing about this game is it has a very high encounter rate. I'll come back here later though. Whenever you leave any location, you'll end up on your airship. Getting around is fairly easy. A lot of the map will be blocked off by rock rifts, I guess, and strong wind currents. Eventually you can pass through these. There are plenty of other airships sailing the skies too. Merchant ships sometimes sell items. They also have information on discoveries. All over the world are interesting things to discover. The thing is, Vice isn't the only one looking for them. Basically, they only have so much time to find them and turn them in. There's 64 in total. I was able to find them all this time around. I used a guide, so I didn't piece together all the hints or anything. Even still, there are some that are hard to get. 2 of them move around the map. I don't just mean they move a little. They have flight paths that take up a quarter of the world map. Then there are some that are just out in the sky with no landmarks or anything nearby. I really do like that with every discovery, you're able to get a little bit of history about what you just found. One thing that makes finding discoveries frustrating is the encounter rate. It's very high, so if you want to play Skies of Arcadia, I hope you like random battles because there are going to be a lot. And this is the perfect time to talk about the battle system. The basic commands you'd expect are here, such as attack, defend, item, and magic are all accounted for. Special moves are extremely useful and are also on the command wheel. Then there's focus. Focus lets a character add a few points to the SP gauge. The SP gauge is at the top of the screen. Magic and special moves use SP. Magic also uses MP, but it's how many times a character can cast spells instead of how much MP each spell is going to cost. To use more powerful spells, you need to amass a decent amount of SP. Special moves just use SP, so you can abuse the hell out of Vice since he has a lot of the best special attacks in the game. At the start of a battle, the party starts with a certain amount of SP based on the character's levels and how many characters are in the party. Every turn you receive the same amount of SP added to what wasn't used in the previous turn. Focus adds points to the bar for the next turn. Attack, defend, and item don't affect the SP bar. I ended up using tons of special attacks throughout my playthrough. These do a lot of damage, but are kinda long. They do look cool, but really how many times can you watch them? Luckily they're all skippable. With Ica's specials, you have to skip it as soon as it starts, otherwise it's unskippable. Maxing out the SP gauge unlocks 2 secret attacks. Neither of these show up on the battle wheel until the gauge is maxed out. One is an attack by all the party members, the other one comes from Vice's crew.
In dire need.
We call forth
The power
of the ancients.
to battle our foe.
There are also ship battles. These also heavily use the SP gauge. However, in these, attacks use quite a bit of SP. The same rules apply on how to accumulate SP. Magic attacks are also the same, requiring SP but only costing 1 MP. Item and Defend are the only ones that don't really affect the SP gauge. Well, Focus is there too. Ship battles work on a grid. Each party member gets an action on the grid. After all actions are selected, ships take turns attacking each other. Whichever ship has the most quick attacks first. Enemies do tend to get their special attacks off regardless of quick. After all 4 actions have been performed by both ships, the next turn begins. Special attacks in the ships can only be performed on specific turns. On the grid you can see when an enemy is going to unleash a powerful attack. Decisions made between turns can either set you up for a special attack or put you in danger. Some of these battles can take a while, especially when fighting the Gigas, but I'll talk more about them in the spoilers. Both types of battles are fun. Even with all the random battles, it's like a game in itself. I'm always planning the fastest way to get the battle over with, kinda like Panzer Dragoon Saga without the rewards. If you want to get the best weapons in the game, then I suggest not running for many battles. Airships can be upgraded. There are many accessories and weapons to play around with. There are also a few legendary monsters to hunt. These are huge! They do drop good parts though. The game is really packed with stuff to do. It's crazy there's even more to do in Legends, but I'll save that for another time. Now earlier I mentioned Vice's crew. Close to the game's halfway point, Vice becomes the captain of the Delphinus. At this point he can start recruiting. This is similar to Suikoden in that way. Some crew will join just by talking to them. Others may need another member recruited to join. One does need Vice's swashbuckler rank to be at a certain point, and another needs to be paid 20,000 gold and so on. The crew does help in ship battles. Crew can add passive abilities and special crew buffs. In battle there's the crew special attack. Back at the home base, crew will open shops, build better buildings, and perform other services. Also, just like Suikoden, the crew all get short endings. I really did enjoy getting all the crew members. Another thing to collect are champs. Fina's weapon is her little friend Cupel. The only way to power him up is to feed him champs. To find them, you'll have to listen to the beeps coming from the VMU. You know, the little memory card with the screen for the Dreamcast. The little animations of Cupel on the VMU are pretty funny. I wasn't able to find all the champs though. That's the only thing I needed to complete this game 100%. Oh, and that swashbuckler rank I mentioned earlier? This is determined by making correct choices in the story and in ship battles. Also what is discovered, how many crew you have, how many battles you run from. You'll end up with titles like Vice the Distinguished. If you run from enough battles, you'll be known as Vice the Cowardly. This is also what some NPCs will call Vice. It really is great to see Vice grow as a character over time. The characters are what really makes this game special. Interestingly, this game's translation is a loose one. The basic story is the same, but most of the dialogue was rewritten. They did a good job there, which is strange that I'd say that. I'm not the biggest fan of localizers changing a creator's work. However, this one worked out well, and it was approved by Sega. Graphically, I think Skies of Arcadia still looks phenomenal. However, the graphics have always been considered a con for the game, which I really don't understand. This game is full of color, characters and facial expressions change often. While there is no real voice acting, those faces say a lot. The town NPCs are all unique for the most part. Some vendors look alike, and the Sailors Guild reps have some clones out there. This is actually very impressive for the time. NPCs also have quite a few unique animations. The amount of detail throughout the world is still astonishing. All of this adds to the atmosphere, making this world feel more like a real place. Well, I mean as real as a world with floating continents can feel. Towns are all interesting and unique. Sailor's Island is the first one the crew gets to visit. I'd have to say this town is my favorite. It's the art direction and attention to detail. Airships fly overhead, men are whispering secrets in the streets, there's a guy always rolling around on the ground because of how happy he is to be back on land. It's just a great first town for the player to experience. Well, Pirate Isle is also kind of a town, but that's more of Captain Dine's base of operations. Other towns differ greatly from each other, even if they're part of the same kingdom. Ixiataka has multiple levels to the city. There's a lot of climbing and sliding. The towns and cities are all very detailed. The only other game I can think of that has even one town like these is Panzer Dragoon Saga, which was made by a lot of the same people. The world map is a full 3D world to explore in your airship. In games like Final Fantasy, airships let you speed across the map that you'd already traveled. Skies of Arcadia's world map is fully designed for airship travel exclusively. That really makes this map feel huge. The draw distance is good, spotting far off islands is easy. As you travel to other lands, you can see the moon change. I guess all of Skies of Arcadia's moons are stationary. This is a game about floating continents. Seriously, I don't know why I'm expecting the moon's orbits to be realistic. Each of the lands you visit all have a very distinct look. Honestly, I could keep going on and on about how great this game still looks. Art direction plays a big part in that. I'm a huge fan of these characters and their designs. They all look original, but yet fit the time period the game is based on. Well, Gilder always reminded me of Ash the Stampede from the original Trigun. Looks-wise at least. They're very different characters. Monsters are rendered well, but for the most part they just look like generic RPG enemies. There are a few cool bosses though. The legendary monsters Vice fights in his ship are interesting. One just kinda looked like a giant dream catcher. Speaking of the airships, there are many different kinds floating in the skies. The Valiant Navy has some pretty cool ships. Also the Black Pirates. These are the most common enemies you'll fight in ship battles. Skies of Arcadia has an excellent soundtrack. I honestly can't think of a single track I didn't like. Every piece perfectly matches the areas and cutscenes. Sega really does have some great soundtracks. There isn't much voice acting in the game. Sometimes they might say a 3-word sentence after winning a battle. Usually it'll be a gasp or a yeah, something along those lines. So yeah, you're gonna have to read.
How could this be?
Sound effects all work. Explosions and cannon fire all sound good. It's nice to hear ship engines so you know when one is close by. The soundtrack is definitely the star in the sound department though. There are 2 different battle themes, one for the dungeons and one on the airship. The boss theme is a really cool one. The bosses all have the same music, only a couple have different ones. The thing about the boss theme is that it changes depending on if the party is winning or losing.
Here goes!
Skies of Arcadia is a one-of-a-kind adventure. The game has a great story with very interesting characters. While the encounter rate is high, the battle system is fun. Exploring the world looking for discoveries is also, once again, fun. The game isn't too difficult, but I'd say the ship battles can be a little bit tough, sometimes. But overall though, the game isn't very hard. Skies of Arcadia Legends has more content and less random battles. Honestly though, the Dreamcast original is still definitely worth playing. I have both and I chose to play this one, mainly because of the music. It's really compressed on the GameCube. Maybe I'll do Legends in the future. I'm sure glad I decided to visit Arcadia again.
Yeah!
Oh my god, the spoilers are coming! This is a spoiler warning! Wah! Okay, where we left off, Vice and Ica were headed to Value to rescue Fina, Dine, and his crew. As they sail, they encounter a giant arc whale. The whale destroys the ship, but they are quickly rescued by Drachma, who was hunting the arc whale Rachnum. Drachma wasn't happy that he had to let Rachnum go to rescue the pair. Vice tries to thank Drachma for rescuing them, but Drachma responds with a fist to the face. Drachma tells them if they want to stay, they'll have to pull their own weight. Drachma dumps the kids off at Sailor's Island. While there, Vice and Ica find information on where to get a harpoon cannon. Drachma needs one to hunt Rachnum. Vice uses this to bargain with Drachma to take them to Valua. Drachma agrees. After securing a passport from a merchant from Nasser, they head to Valua. Valua is defended by a giant gate that opens once a day to traders. The crew land in the lower city. While there, they see how much worse the life is in the lower city than it is in the upper city. They meet a little punk named Marco. He eventually shows them the sewer entrance that will get them into the arena where the execution is taking place. Once through the sewer in the upper city, they reach the arena. They bust in and rescue Dine and his crew. While making their escape, Marco appears and shows them a secret passage. While hiding, Ica and Vice tell everyone they're going to rescue Fina. Drachma takes Dine and his crew back to his ship. The pair make their way to the upper city. They spot Fina being loaded onto a train by some guards. Vice and Ica jump aboard the train with Galcian in pursuit. Galcian is the Grand Admiral of the Valiant Armada. They catch up to Fina at the front of the train. They take out the guards and rescue Fina. Right after that, Galcian shows up. The 3 are cornered with nowhere to run. Then Drachma comes to the rescue in the Little Jack. The 3 board the ship and rush to the gate before it closes. After the escape from Valua, everyone returns to Pirate Isle. Fina tells Vice, Ica, and Drachma about her quest to find the moon crystals. Vice and Ica are all in to help her, while Drachma stays oddly silent. Vice says farewell to his family. Then they all head to Nasser to get the first crystal. Once in Nasser, they land in Maramba. Vice, Ica, and Fina all get off. Then Drachma ditches them there.
He's an ass. He's after Rackham. He doesn't care about Fina's quest. I don't know why he didn't say something earlier, like maybe before they left home. Anyway. The trio meet a dancer while in town. After talking for a little, the dancer tells them she has an airship and that she'll take them to the Temple of Pirate. They don't have much of a choice, so they take her up on the offer. The three battle their way through the temple and get the red moon crystal. They head back to the dancer in the ship. Turns out the dancer is actually Beleza, 4th Admiral of the Valiant Imperial Armada. She takes the crystal and uses it to awaken the red moon's Gigas. The moon crystals and Gigas are weapons created by the ancient civilizations that used to occupy the continents. The trio run for the desert as the Gigas rises. As the three feel as if all hope is lost, wouldn't you know it, Drachma was feeling guilty and saves the day again. Now that they're back on the Little Jack, it's time to fight the Gigas. It doesn't take them long to realize that they're no match for it. They turn their attention toward Beleza's flagship. After taking her ship down, they take the crystal back. They also take her engines and cannons. They need the engines to pass through to the South Ocean. The vortexes make it difficult to pass. After crossing the South Ocean, they reach Ixiataka. They head to Horteka to resupply and find the location of the green moon crystal. The village elder tells them to find the king, who is in hiding since Valua invaded. While flying there, they encounter 5th Admiral De Loco. De Loco is enslaving the Ixiatakans and burning their forest for fun. They defeat his ship and he runs away. They next meet with the king. He tells them that if anyone knows about the green moon crystal, it's the high priest. Of course he's been captured and needs to be rescued. So they head off to Moonstone Mountain, rescue a blue rogue named Sentime, defeat Alfonso again, and rescue the high priest, while making De Loco have a meltdown. The priest gives them a hint on how to find the temple that's rumored to hold the green crystal. They find it eventually. After exploring the temple, Vice does some jets at radio moves to catch someone who'd been watching them. Hey, Overworks made that game too. The guy they caught tells them that the king and the high priest already have the moon crystal and are using it to wake the sleeping Gigas. Alfonso and De Loco are approaching when this is happening. Alfonso retreats. De Loco fires his special cannon that incapacitates the king. This causes the Gigas to lose control and go on a rampage. The crew first goes after De Loco and defeats him. Then they defeat the Gigas. Now that Valua is gone and Ixiataka is safe, the king gives the green moon crystal to Vice and company. Now they head back to Valua to look for the yellow moon crystal. They're able to pass through to the rear of the Valuan continent. When they reach the location of the seal holding the crystal, it's locked and they can't open it. Some guards attack. The last one remaining tells them not even the Armada could get it open. The Valuans figured they could save it for last. The guard also says there's a giant arc whale in the area. Drachma tells the others he's been helping them long enough, and now it's time for them to help him hunt Rackham. Vice, Ica, and Fina all agree. They anchor the ship for the night. Vice decides to take a walk. He finds Drachma sitting with a box. Drachma tells Vice to open it. It's Drachma's son's feather collection. Drachma then tells Vice that his son and former fishing crew were all killed while they tried to fight Rackham. He wants to avenge them by killing the beast. The next day they find him. Admiral Ramirez is attacking the whale. Drachma refuses to let them be the ones to take Rackham down. They fight off one of the fleet ships. After defeating it, Drachma fires the harpoon cannon into Rackham. Then Ramirez attacks in his flagship. Now the Little Jack is in flames. They need to get to the lifeboats. Ica and Fina go in one first. Drachma pushes Vice's lifeboat and stays behind. As the three are escaping, Ramirez attacks the lifeboats and Vice's goes down. Vice wakes up on a beach on a deserted island. He finds a piece of a map on a skeleton. He also finds a cave that looks like someone used to live there. Ica and Fina are rescued by Captain Clara. Seems like they got it pretty easy compared to Vice. Clara drops the girls off in Nasarad. They aren't sure what to do yet, but 2 weeks pass. Vice is rescued by Captain Gilder. Gilder's also headed to Nasarad. Gilder's crew is suddenly on alert. Captain Clara is in love with Gilder and chases him everywhere. Vice and Gilder escape in a lifeboat, while Gilder's crew lead Clara away. They land their boat in Nasarad. Ica and Fina had been working as waitresses to buy a ship. They got a piece of the same map that Vice has. It is funny to see how they barely miss seeing each other even though they're staying at the same inn. Vice did attempt to tell the Sultan of Nasser that Valua was amassing for an invasion. The Sultan laughed him off. While he tried, both groups set sail for Ducat's Island. They're looking for treasure. This is a cool dungeon that you have to switch between the two parties to solve puzzles. It also reminds me of the Goonies. They eventually reunite at the end of the dungeon. As for the treasure, well,
There was one coin with a note basically saying, "Friendship is the greatest treasure." Aiko was pretty pissed about the one coin thing. She thought she was going to be rich. As the four depart, Ramirez is shown preparing his fleet to attack Nasserat. Once the party returns to the city, Ramirez begins his attack. He lands and approaches the group. Fina seems to know Ramirez. When he demands their surrender, Fina advises they do, so they're all captured. Also, he takes the 2 crystals they collected. We then see Prince Enrique confronting his mother. He's upset about what happened to Nasserat. His mother dismisses him. We then get back to Vice, Gilder, and Aika. Gilder sends his bird to get a message out. His ship and Clara's are coming to attack the main gate where they're being held. Gilder picks the lock, and the 2 go looking for Aika and Fina. Fina is in an awkward position with Admiral Figaro. Yeah, they kick his ass. Enrique was going to meet Vice, but he finds out he escaped. He tells his guard to keep it quiet. The group next finds Fina, and now they're all back together again. Next, they need to find a ship. They board one of the armadas. Prince Enrique was already waiting on them. He tells Vice that he hates what Value is doing and wants to join Vice. Vice agrees. Turns out the ship the Delphinus is a prototype. It's Enrique's personal ship. Enrique also stole the crystals.
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
They break out of Value for a second time. Once they're free from Value and territory, Gilder tells Vice he's leaving. He says this is his only chance to escape from Clara. So now Enrique is the 4th. Oh yeah, Vice was voted to be the captain. Oh, and also Ramirez is Fina's older brother, so you know, yeah. They establish a base at Crescent Island, the one that Vice was shipwrecked on. They next need to cross an impassable windstorm wall, I guess? Yafutoma, the land of the Blue Moon, is on the other side. They first head to Esperanza. This place is a dump and everyone's given up hope. The people here really hate Vice's optimistic attitude. Then Second Admiral Ironwall Gregorio approaches Esperanza. A soldier requests Enrique return to Valua. Enrique refuses and they prepare for battle. The sailors on Esperanza really come back to life watching Vice fight Gregorio's fleet. Vice is victorious. Gregorio tries to get Enrique to reconsider after the battle. Enrique says Valua is on a dark path and he must help Vice stop them. They then head for the weird hole in the storm wall thing. This is a ship dungeon. There are only 2 or 3 of these. The last one is extremely short, so I don't know if it counts. This is a trippy place that feels like it's right out of Ren and Stimpy. Vice is in the first ever to set sail to Yafutoma. Before he can enter the city, he's attacked by pirates. The ships in Yafutoma can fly much higher than the ships from the west. Vice defeats the pirates and then enters the city. He speaks with the king of Yafutoma, who's impressed with Vice. He allows him access to the mountain that holds the Blue Moonstone crystal. They head in and then return to the king with the crystal. However, the king wants to keep it. The prince also seems to fall in love with the Yafutoman princess. In the morning, Admirals Beleza and Vigoro show up. They've come to negotiate Yafutoma's surrender to Valua. The king refuses, but his advisor usurps the throne. The princess helps the group escape. She takes them to her brother. Prince Daigo is the leader of the bandits that attacked Vice when he arrived. The prince asks Vice to join him in his fight against Valua. Vice obviously agrees. First order of business is to take back the Delphinus.
Let's try this.
Now in Starfield, I made a guy pay dearly for impounding my ship. So yeah, I laid the smackdown on the advisor's son. Next, Vigoro attacks in his flagship. Wait, did he just say what I think he just said?
And I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
He loses to Vice. His Vigoro cannon was no match for the Moonstone cannon. The evil Jafar type advisor, Kongan, summons the Blue Moon's Gigas. Vice defeats it. The king is restored to the throne, now with both of his children at his side. Not for long, though. The royal family really takes a shining to Enrique. Princess Mogi decides to join Vice. So now they return home. They're also the first ones to discover that the world is round. Now they have to travel to the Arctic, the land of the purple moon. They arrive in an ancient abandoned city. When they reach the final chamber, they meet their old friend Drachma. Rachnum was injured badly by Ramirez. Drachma is waiting with him to make his last days comfortable. Drachma has made his peace with Rachnum. Turns out the giant arc whale was the Gigas of the Purple Moon. He had the moon crystal on him. This gave Rackham free will. Rackham drops the crystal, then dies. Drachma appears to be taking all this pretty hard. Vice tries to get him to join them. Drachma, however, said he needs time alone for a while. Now they make their way back to Valua. The ship can now fly really high and really low. Enrique mentions a cave beneath the Valuan continent. That's their only lead to the yellow moonstone crystal, so they go. When they reach the end of the cave, they accidentally wake the yellow Gigas. This thing busts through the so-called unbreakable seal. Once defeated, the Gigas explodes, leaving the yellow crystal behind. Now that they have the 5 crystals they were after, they need to find Fina's ship. Gilder tells them about an underground base being built near Pirate Isle. They find the plans for a ship that can go down to the surface inside the base. When they try to escape, Galcian sees them and pursues. When Galcian catches up to them, Gregorio comes to their defense. Gregorio falls in battle. They're able to escape and return to Crescent Island. They need time to make the modifications to the Delphinus so they can take it down to the surface and get Fina's ship. Enrique decides to return to Valua once this mission is complete. It's around this time that Galcian has all the admirals join him and leave the Empire. All but Alfonso join up. It happened earlier. Gregorio joined him too, and he's gone now. The crew then descends into the depths of the surface. There isn't much down here, mostly mud. Once they find Fina's ship, Te Loco attacks. They defeat him, and then they drop Enrique off at Sailor's Island. They say their farewells, and Enrique leaves for now. Everyone returns to Crescent Island to have a farewell party for Fina. In the night, Ramirez attacks and takes the crystals back. Now they decide to travel to the Silver Shrine in space to tell the Elders the news. Gilder joins back up at this point too. While speaking to the Elder Prime, he tells them all about the destruction that the previous civilizations caused with the Gigas. The Sylvites used the Rains of Destruction on the world below. That was actually why they sent Fina and Ramirez down. They want to use it again. Vice and friends are not okay with this. Fina had no idea. Somehow Galcian and Ramirez join in the conversation. They use Ramirez's ship. But then why were they after Fina's? I don't know. Ramirez then kills the Elder Prime and takes the crystal inside him. All Sylvites have crystals in them. Then the two leave. After that, the Elders tell everyone they must stop Galcian and Ramirez. So it's at this point I lost quite a bit of footage. They were there, they were just black screens going for over an hour long. So I'll be using clips of what I do have until I catch up to the rest that I still have, which is the last few hours of the game. It's just one of the scenes I lost was a pretty major one, which I'm just about to talk about. Galcian and Ramirez raise the Silver Continent and use the Rains of Destruction on Valua. This takes out Enrique's mother, the Empress, and the newly promoted Grand Admiral Alfonso, as well as many Valuan citizens. Enrique and Beleza survive and are helping people to safety. I'm sorry, I can't remember why, but they go back to the base where they stole the plans from. They face off with Vigoro one last time, and they beat him. Now I got the clips back. Most of the allies Vice made join him on the assault on the Silver Continent. They push on and eventually make it to Galcian's flying fortress. They defeat the fortress, then board it. It's here they finally battle Galcian. He's defeated, but has an escape ship ready. He thinks he's free, but then Beleza, who he thought died in the Rains of Destruction, is on a collision course with his. Beleza is in love with Galcian. She decides to be the one to punish him for what he did to Valua. I mean, he also sent her to what was supposed to be her death. Ramirez doesn't take this well. He's been following Galcian because he believed in his vision for the future. Ramirez tries to use the Rains of Destruction on the world. It's then that the Elders in the space station send it crashing into the Silver Continent. This destroys the shield protecting it. Vice and crew are now ready to face off with Ramirez. They do battle with him and defeat him. Ramirez refuses to be defeated, so he summons the Silver Gigas. He's consumed in the process. The four must escape because he's getting bigger. Back on the Delphinus, they see the Gigas forming. It looks kind of like the Death Star. Anyway, they destroy it. They think it's all over. Then a silver sphere crashes into the deck of the ship. Ramirez is still alive and looking like a Resident Evil boss. When I beat him I used Prophecy, letting all four defeat Ramirez together. Just a cool finish, I guess. Afterwards everyone celebrates and they head to Crescent Island to party. Next we see Enrique and Mogi getting married, and we see them rebuilding Valua. Vice gets his own ship. The Delphinus was Enrique's, so he kinda needs it right now. The credits show ending for all the crewmates. Drachma died soon after the final battle. His and Rachnum's story becomes legend. Gilder keeps living the way he's been. I like that they show your swashbuckler rank here. I got Vice the Legend. Oh man, that was a lot of story to tell.
That was a lot of story to cover and a lot of footage to go through. So, do you have any memories of Skies of Arcadia? If you do, please leave them in the comments below. Please like if you liked it. Please subscribe. Peace.